Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Are your glasses pink, Cheryl, or is it like reflecting? It looks cool though,
So,
either way.
well, these have a tint to them, but for some reason, this camera, it has like red in it. Like, that's not my face. It's only this downstairs camera. I'm downstairs tonight. When I'm in
Oh,
my upstairs office, that camera doesn't do it.
sorry.
I don't know. I don't know why it doesn't. It's not even an old camera. It's relatively new.
Probably trying to filter you.
It's probably a setting somewhere, and I just don't know.
Yeah.
Just don't know what it is.
Do you know how to turn off the setting? My phone connects to my microphone from here, goes to my computer goes to my phone.
Yeah, it's in settings. Hang on.
I haven't found it and it keeps happening and it's so annoying.
Um, I think it's in your control center, but
On my phone or on my iMac.
it would be the phone.
Okay. Yeah, I've
But I'll ask Mike to make sure, but I think that's where it is in the um
do you know what it's called?
no.
I know, because I can't even because I could search it, but I don't even know what it's called. And I haven't
I'll ask Mike when he
found
gets
it.
back from the store.
Okay. Thank
Hi,
you. Thanks, Mike.
Christine.
Your hair looks nice, thick
It
and
looks
full.
different. Yeah, thick and full.
Kind of
Throw kindness around.
like confetti.
Thank you, ladies. It's just down. That's all.
Good,
It's
Holly. Are you
just
swimming?
not in a ponytail today because I had a business meeting I just got back from.
Hi, Christine.
Awesome.
But how long does it take for your hair to dry?
To dry, I took a shower last night, about an hour before I went to bed. And in the morning, I blow dried it for about 15 minutes to finish drying it.
Figured. Does
I
it make
remember those days. I remember those days. Not anymore, but
Yeah, it takes about 45 minutes to blow dry it.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, I've never been so blessed. But
Yeah.
I know it comes at a cost and that is not fun. So
It's
let's
actually
go.
horrendous. I remember the first time I ever went to my stylist, and I said I should probably I didn't want to book online, and
Mhm.
she said, "Oh no, sure, it's fine." I said, "No, we need to leave an extra hour for my cut." She says, "Okay, if you want to pay me that much." And then we get there. She says, "I've never seen hair this thick in my entire life. This is incredible." And she went on and on for about a half an hour. And then she took pictures of all my hair on the floor after my trim, and yeah, that was a big deal for her. Now she's just used to it.
Yeah. My hair was really thick.
Oh,
Like they hated my hairdresser that I had for like 10 years. He just hated, especially like if I wanted a perm. Oh my
oh
gosh.
yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'm gonna kill you. You want me to do a perm with this thick head? Like, yep.
I'm gonna charge you for an extra perm.
No, but I'm
Yeah.
sure he charged me extra because it was pretty expensive. But yeah, I loved my thick hair. It's all gone now, but you know.
What happened to it?
Uh menopause, the heart
Oh,
problems,
mhm.
heart problems in the surgery, just like whatever was already like hadn't left yet from menopause came out after that. And I've spent the last year with these shampoos and taking these pills, and it did come back a little bit, but not, you know, it's still thin. Anyway,
That
all right.
sucks.
Um, so oh, it'd be good if I had the schedule up, huh? That'd be helpful. So tonight we're gonna go over chapter 5, and hopefully you guys got that from the portal. And then we have, oh, today's the 10th.
I know.
So we're 6 class, this is our 6th class. So we have 6 more actual classes. So we're halfway through. And then our coaching is going to be, Holly's going to be coaching Georgie, and then Kim is going to be coaching Lori. Yep. Any questions about any of the materials or anything so far in the course? Kim should be arriving within the next 5 minutes, and Georgie is going to be late till 7 for a work meeting. And I'm not sure where Marcy is. I have not heard from her yet.
Well, I was coaching with her yesterday and she made the weird comment of, I'll see you in a week and a half. But then we like signed off and I meant to text her like something, but then I forgot until you just said that. I was like, oh, she's just messed up on her days.
I wonder if it's, I know she
She on
gave
a
me 3
cruise
dates.
now?
No, I think that's the end of May as far as I know.
Oh, okay.
But I'll message her just to make sure. Let's see. Oh, oh, here's Val. Forgot about Val. And I'm just looking through her messages. Yeah, I don't see anything about tonight. I have the May and beginning of June. Because if I know the dates, I want to, well, I didn't schedule her. So I don't know. We'll see. I just messaged her. Okay. Valerie, any questions from anything that we've covered so far? All right. So we're gonna jump right in. Chapter 5. So we're talking about advanced reflective inquiry and powerful questioning. So of course we know that coaching isn't about giving answers. It's about creating the space for powerful questions that unlock the client's thinking, feelings, perceptions, beliefs. Reflective inquiry is the art of guiding clients into deeper awarenesses. That's all that means. And we do that through intentional curiosity. So we're going to explore kind of beyond the surface level questions and learn to really create questions that spark insight, challenge assumptions, and deepen self-understanding. And let me just move this over so I can see everybody's face. There we go. Okay. Oh, I like that. Come on. There we go. Now I have it on gallery and I can see everybody. All right. So why does reflective inquiry matter? A couple things. First of all, we use powerful questioning as a technique, but it really is also a mindset. And just to give you a little like example, so my kids forever, for the past 15 years or 14 years, if we're having a conversation, I am asking those open-ended questions to try to create some awareness for them, and they will tell me to stop. They will say, stop coaching me, stop, I'm not coaching you, I'm just asking open-ended questions. That's coaching me. That's what they think. Because they heard me teach it for so long. And so they just know like that's coming, right? But they also, because they're my kids, don't want to get real deep with me. So they kind of stop it at the beginning. So it does it's a mindset. It's like I'm always in that mode. I always have that mindset. It's not something I have to turn on, right? So it becomes integrated, becomes integral to you. So the goal with reflective inquiry is to, here comes Kim, is to listen to, is to have the clients listen to themselves more deeply as well as us. Because that's the reflective piece, right? They're able to kind of hear their own thought process or their own, the feelings that are coming up or the perceptions are coming up or whatever the case is. And so we want to help them do that so that they can uncover their own answers. They can make decisions that are aligned with their values and their goals. And I'm echoing back. I'm not sure why. Okay. So with that, reflective inquiry covers, there's 4 areas of EQ that reflective inquiry covers. So it's self-awareness. So encouraging the client to explore their inner landscape with curiosity. Reality testing, which is helps clients differentiate between assumption and facts. Empathy, which uses questions to understand emotional context and internal experiences. And impulse control and flexibility, which slows down reactive thinking and opens up space for reflection before action is taken. So this is the new format. I don't know if you guys saw this. I have the EQ sub areas that go with the topic in this chapter, and then a coach tips throughout the chapter. So this is going to be, I'm going to go back in the first 4 chapters and update it because I like this format, and I did it for the rest of the chapters, and they're all done. And the last 3 are at the editors, and I should get that back this weekend, and then the whole course will be done. So coach tip, when a client is stuck in reactivity, reflective inquiry slows them down just long enough to feel their way into a different response. So now the reflective coach mindset. So the most effective coaches don't lead with brilliant questions, right? First of all, I think brilliant questions is an overused term for coaches. Like, we don't have to come up with brilliant questions. We have to come with meaningful questions and questions that generate awareness, but they're not always brilliant. Sometimes they're the most simplest things, and it opens that up. But we do want to lead with presence, patience, and purpose, right? Purposeful curiosity, but being purposeful in our actions and our questions. So the most effective way to do that is really to speak less and listen more. That's our 80-20 rule. Being comfortable with not knowing the answers, holding space for the client to discover, not coach answers. That's one thing we don't ever want to do. We don't want to coach them to an answer. We want to coach them to find their own answers, but we don't want to coach them to an answer. And then notice language, patterns, energy, and what's not being said. That makes a reflective coach right there. Those 4 things. There's other little things that you can sprinkle in there, but those are the main 4 things that are going to make you a good reflective coach. So reflective inquiry is less about having the right question and more about being in the right relationship with your client's unfolding process. So we always want to observe that, right? We want to be an observer of their process that's unfolding. But we want to actually have some active things that we're doing as well, which is that speaking less, listening more, and making sure that we're holding that space for the client to grow in that moment with the questions that we're asking. And our job is to pick up things, which is basically what this is saying, is that our job is to pick up things, notice patterns, notice energy shifts, notice confusion, notice what might be missing from what they're saying. And then, of course, notice how they're presenting what they're saying. Is there emotional undercurrent? Is there over emotions attached to it? Whatever it is. So that's our job as a reflective coach, is to pick up on those things. Now, when we go into the sessions with our clients with that mindset, and the client comes with their own, with their part of the mindset as well. But it allows the clients to feel seen and heard and felt, right? and not analyzed, not observed. Because there's a little bit of a negativity associated with like feeling observed from somebody, right? It's okay if you observe things or tones or, words or whatever. But when a person feels like they're being observed, takes it to a different kind of level and people feel uncomfortable a lot of the times. So that's that kind of analyzation. They feel like they're being analyzed. So if you're allowing them to be seen because you're being reflective, then you're not bringing the negative piece into it. You're not analyzing because you're staying in your coach role. We don't analyze as coaches. And then those things like we're speaking less, we're listening more, we're noticing patterns, energy. We're asking questions that are targeted to what they've said to us, the reflection that they've given, the reflection that we're giving based on what they've said to us. And that's unfolding in the questions that we ask. So when we have that mindset, it allows us to go deeper, right, into insights. So deeper insights are going to come up, and we're going to be able to ask better questions based off those insights that we're getting from the reflective inquiry that we're having, that we're demonstrating. Okay. Questions about that reflective inquiry? Go, Bill.
It's not about that. I'm just wondering, are we in class 5 or 6 right now?
6. We're halfway through.
And I'm sorry, what did you say about the file? Because I don't see it.
The
Did you say
the
it should
chapter
be there?
6?
Yeah.
I mean, it's chapter 5. I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Yeah, it's chapter 5. Because we had group mentoring in there.
Okay. I don't want to disrupt it right now, but maybe before we leave, we could just talk about the calendar and where we are. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. That's okay.
Got a question.
Go
Would you
ahead,
speak
Deanna.
to where you said we don't analyze? Talk to me a little bit more about that.
So what analyzing actually is, you make a determination. When you analyze something, you make a determination. Usually an outcome, like a determination of an outcome.
Okay.
So as a coach, we don't want to have, I mean, it's not that we don't ever, analyze anything. It's just that we don't have that, we're not in that analyze mindset or focus because we're not going to make an assumption to an outcome, which analyzing does. So we want to take it a step back and stay in that reflective inquiry and not in the analyzing.
Okay, thanks, Coach.
Mm-hmm. Christine, you look confused. Does that not make sense?
Well, I don't know, because I can analyze something forever and never come to a conclusion.
But while you're analyzing, are you looking for a conclusion?
Yes, that's why I'm analyzing. Eventually, I know I'm going to eventually come to a conclusion.
Right.
But the whole purpose, I don't know, is it observation or is it analyzing? I don't know. Because a lot of times I'll analyze something and not come to a conclusion. Not that that's not what I wanted to do, though. So that's a good point. Yeah, I did want to come to a conclusion.
Right. So
Whereas
it's your
with
intention.
observation, I'm not looking really at a conclusion.
Right.
Okay. Thanks.
So you work that out yourself.
Well.
All right. Anybody else? All right. So what are we doing when we're in this reflective inquiry mindset? We are listening for a deeper question. So every transformational question begins with the deep listening, right? So a lot of the times the invitation for exploration really lies in what's underneath, the client's words, right? And we kind of know that on a, on a surface level of we're looking at what the client says, but we're really looking at what's underneath it. We're not taking it at face value. And we're not making assumptions about what's underneath it either, right? We're using the questions to help get to what's underneath it. And that's what makes deeper questions, deeper listening. So some things to listen for. Contradictions. I really want to leave my job, but I can't imagine doing anything else. So that's a contradiction. And we want to explore that with them to help them get clarity around it, so that if they really do want to leave their job, and that's the clarity that they come to, then they're open to making the journey, like the next steps, right? Looking at what do I do next steps in order to make this a reality, instead of being stuck in the mindset of, well, I want to leave my job, but I can't imagine doing anything else, which means I'm staying in my job, right? Because if you can't imagine it, you can't make it happen. So something you could ask, a possible question is like, what does it feel like to want to change, but fear what's on the other side of that change? Go ahead, Deanna.
Okay, so now I looked at this earlier, but fear, now we're interjecting that they are fearful. And I heard earlier in some conversation that we weren't supposed to interject what we think that's happening. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so you can, this is just a question to help to get to the contradiction. This isn't the whole conversation. So yeah, you'd want to help them identify. You could say, why can't, and again, the why question, you can ask these why questions. I know you were trained originally, a lot of you, not to use the why questions, but you can definitely use why questions. You just have to make sure that they're not judgmental when there's no judgment in it, right? So you could say something like, well, why do you feel that way? Or what kind of feelings come up when you think about, actually leaving your job or whatever, to get to the bottom of what the emotion is. But most likely it's going to be fear. And that fear could be different kinds of fear. It could be a fear of not knowing enough, not feeling like they're competent. There's a lot of different things that will fall under that, but typically that's a fear. But whatever emotion they bring up to you is how you can phrase the question. What does it feel like to want to change but fear what's going on the other side? Or what does it feel like to want to change but not really sure about how you would handle what's on the other side? Again, you can just,
It would be more like
customize.
uncertainty. It would be uncertainty. Well, and
Yeah,
then
it's like-
that's fear of the unknown as well. So, okay.
Right. You don't have to use the word fear, but whatever's coming up for the client, use that and just say what's on the other side of it. So just, again, it's just to pause the client to what they've just said, not make it so they make a statement and you move on. Right. And that's kind of like a belief they have, and they're not going to move beyond that belief if we don't help them to explore it a little bit more. So contradictions you want to look out for, charged language. So the shoulds. I should be further along, right? Whenever anybody is shoulding themselves, we want to bring that up. We want to question that, give them some pause with the language that they're using for themselves. And so you could ask this again, these are just examples, like according to whom, who I should be further along, who's shoulding you with that, right? And then something like, after they answer the first question, if I have two questions here, I'm not saying to double stack. These are just examples of two separate questions to ask. So according to whom? Well, according to my boss who says yada, yada, yada. Well, what happens when you let go of those shoulds? Is another question that you can ask. It just gives them, again, some pause, right? To think through what they're feeling or what their belief is around something. And then emotional weight. So if there's a long pause or you see deep sighs or sudden, energy shifts, that's an indicator of something, right? And you're actively listening and you're in your reflective inquiry mindset, you're going to question that. So you could say something like, what just happened for you in that pause? And I guarantee you they're going to have to think about that. It's not going to be something that's going to come right up for them. They're going to have to think for it for a second or a minute before they come up with it. So don't rush it either. Once you ask a question like that, make sure you're giving that silence and that space for them to answer it, because they're going to have to think about it. Coach tip, when a client uses a lot of I should language, they may be prioritizing obligations over desire. So another good question might be, what would you want if there were no shoulds involved? Just a simple question. So these are opportunities to invite exploration. They're not opportunities to diagnose, because we're not trying to diagnose their situation in any way. You know, we're not trying to fix anything for them. We're trying to invite exploration and have them change or fix or move forward or whatever it is for themselves. Okay. So there are levels of questioning. So we're just going to go into a little bit deeper into the questions themselves. So I have the 3 different levels in here, but there's more levels, but this is like the 3 most common ones. So we have the exploratory questions where you know, we're asking things to help gather surface level information. So what happened next? Who was involved? What was your reaction? They're very surface level, and sometimes they're very like quick questions, right? There's not too much thought that has to go into it or feeling or what have you. Excuse me. So they're useful early in a session, and maybe early in your relationship with the client, maybe the first couple sessions while they're getting to know you, you're getting to know them potentially. But they don't lead to much transformation, right? Because it's like fact finding, kind of like fact finding questions, right? They're not going to lead to much transformation. And then level 2 is the challenging questions. And these are the ones that dig beneath the surface and reveal patterns, whether they're emotional or other, you know, assumptions or other things. But, you know, things like what belief is driving that reaction? How do you know that's true? What might you be avoiding here? Questions that are going to make them think, right? There's a pause there. And so this brings up things from deep, right? It brings it up to the surface. So we had the surface level questions where we're staying up here. We're all here, client and you know, up here on the surface. The challenging questions are bringing things from below up to the, you know, up to the surface to start examining them. And then you have the transformational level 3 transformational questions. And this is where you help the client to reframe the issue or change a belief or, you know, open up new perspectives or whatever the case is. There's something happening with these type of questions. And so the examples here are, what truth are you not telling yourself right now? If fear wasn't present, what would be possible? What needs to shift in you for this to feel different? Or what needs to shift in you for this to affect you differently? So we want to have an arsenal of different levels of questioning. The best way to do that, by the way, is to read questions. And I can't remember the site name, but I will remember. But there is a website for coaching questions, and it has something like 12,000 questions or some ridiculous amount. And it has them categorized. And just reading through them gives you awareness. I'm not saying memorize these questions, and these are not rote things to use in your coaching, but just being exposed to them gives you some more perspective and will help when you are searching for a transformational question. You've developed it, you know, this kind of knowledge from reading these questions, just like reading anything else, how you can apply it to your life or your business. So I actually suggest that you read a specific number of questions every week, because questions are at the root of what we do. Whether that's 10 questions a week, 50 questions a week, whatever it is, I won't go crazy. But you know, if you're just going to sit down for a half an hour and read through 50 questions a week, that would be very powerful. And then I think most of you probably have the 400 coaching question ebook. If not, there is an ebook called 400 Coaching Questions. I believe it's on the Coaching Tools website. Yeah, and I would download that. It's a free ebook. Okay. So what are some common questioning pitfalls? Of course, leading the client. asking questions that suggest your opinion or your desired outcome, even if it's the desired outcome for the client, right? That's not our job. So don't think you're being, so instead of saying, don't you think you're being too hard on yourself, because that means that you've now identified that, you've put a label on it that they're being too hard on themselves, instead of saying, what's your perspective on how you're treating yourself in this moment? Because they might not see it as being hard on themselves. They might be seeing it as living up to their expectations to reach a goal in a certain time frame or whatever. Like there could be other things to it. But also people don't like to be told what things mean to them. Like they don't want to be labeled, their thoughts or their feelings to be labeled. They want to label them, right? They might not be 100% cognizant of that, but they want to label them. So ask the client what their perspective is. Stacking questions, of course, we always want to ask one question at a time. We want to give that nice space in between, because you can overwhelm a client, you can confuse them. And most of the time, they're going to answer the last question that you ask. So if you've asked 2 or 3 questions, those first ones don't matter. They're gone. So it just does you no good, and it does the client no good. So instead of what do you want, why haven't you done it yet, and what's stopping you, which is something that I see a lot of coaches do, like those 3 things, the want, the why, and the what's stopping you, that seems to be like, I don't know, I guess it feels like it's a good question because it's addressing those specifics, but we want to ask one question at a time. What do you want in this situation? Yada, yada is the answer. Why don't you think you've gotten that done yet? Okay, yada, yada is the answer. All right, so what's stopping you from what you just told me? Three separate questions. And then the last one there is assuming too soon. So jumping to questions based on interpretation instead of the client's words. So that's when we make assumptions. So stay close to their language that they're using and don't interject your own. And I say that a lot, don't introduce language, because that's what introducing language does. It actually brings up assumptions in some way, shape, or form. It's not always 100% like prevalent out there that you can see that, but that's what happens when you are interpreting something and you bring in new language. You've now jumped to some sort of a conclusion or interpreted something, where we want to make sure that we're staying with the client's language because it's what they mean, right? And their words that matter, not ours. Now, if you don't understand, obviously you can ask them to reframe the question or reframe the word, rephrase the word, whatever it is, but that's different. I'm talking about when there's understanding, but we're trying to, twist it to be our understanding or what we think is coming up for the client. And so we introduce new language. Okay. Questions so far on any? Okay. Take a sip. Tea. All right. So the power of silence. So one of the most important parts of a question isn't the question itself. It's what happens after you get the question out. And that is the silence that we leave. It is so important. It is 50% is the question, 50% is the silence. That's really what makes up a good question. So the silence gives your clients time to process, to reflect, to discover. If you rush that, you'll cut off a piece of it. And you might not ever get it back, right? Because, like for instance, me, if you ask me a question now, especially if you ask me 2 questions now, and I don't focus on that first one, I focus on the second one, I'm going to forget what I was even thinking about that first one. It's not coming back. You're going to have to start over. And that's the whole thing, right? You don't want to have to start. If you're having this flow in your conversation, you don't want to have to start that flow over, because it's almost like restarting the conversation. And who wants to do that after you just spent all that time getting a coaching agreement, getting some awarenesses, getting some flow going? I got to restart now. So we have to be really careful about that. So as a coach, your job is to tolerate and trust the silence. If you are not comfortable with silence at this point, then you need to practice it. You need to, when you're in your buddy coaching, your peer coaching, practice that silence. When you're with your family, partners, whatever, ask some questions, practice that silence. Because that is what's going to help you be a better coach. Hands down. It's going to be one of the best things for you to become a better coach. And sometimes we fear silence, right? Because it makes us uncomfortable. I know as an extrovert, that can happen to me sometimes. I'm just like, I could fill the space forever. I could keep going. But, that's not what my job is as a coach, so I don't do it. And if you've ever, like, even here in this training, but if you've ever seen my other trainings I do on Facebook, I go on. Like, I keep going. Because I don't need that silence. I would be uncomfortable giving the silence in a training. Like, I just want to go. I'm the extrovert. I just want to go. You can't be that way in coaching. So sometimes has to go against the grain, right? Go against your personality, to pull back and create that coaching personality. So, don't fear silence, get comfortable with it, because that's where progress happens, insights happen, transformation happens in that silence.
But Cheryl, one of the things that's really important to give what we used to call in WCI the gift of silence is doing the breath work. Breathe in, hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4, release. 1, 2, 3. That releases neurochemicals in your brain, serotonin and dopamine, to be able to rest in that silence and be calm and project that calmness out. It's a beautiful thing to just go to your breath, do the box breathing.
Yeah. So again, that's something, definitely to do for yourself. And then if it's something that you're going to be using with clients, you're just making sure that you're talking to them about that. That might be something that you would integrate into your coaching sessions, but it has to be something that you've already gotten permission for, and of course gone over, with clients. But yeah, definitely different ways to accomplish that. And that's one of them. Okay. The next section is a little activity. And I'm just going to call on one of you. And we're going to build a ladder of questions. And so each question goes deeper than the last. And I just have an example here. What's happening right now? What's the hardest part of this for you, of what's happening right now? What does the situation say about what matters most to you about the hardest part of the situation? What are you learning about yourself here about that hardest part, right? So it's just laddering, going down the ladder. And I think it's going down. Some people say it's going up, but I think it's going down the ladder. And then we want to think about, like, how did the depth of the questions evolve? What questions sparked the most insight? What would you ask next? So this just little activity strengthens your ability to pace the conversation, listen for emotional openings, and challenge assumptions without directing the client. So actually, I'm just going to give this example, and let's see. Well, I'll just give the example and you guys come up with the questions. We don't have to call any one person to do it. So I'm going to read this scenario. I want you guys to write it down. What is the questions that you would ask? And then I'll just go around and call on one of you, and we'll go down the ladder, call on the second person to go down, third person to go down, and we'll just get to a deeper question. So the first one there, the fear of visibility. I know I need to start putting myself out there, but every time I think about going live or posting, I freeze. And I'm just going to go across my screen. Holly, first question right there.
Kind of find mute. Where's the idea coming from that you need to be putting yourself out there?
Okay.
Is that too deep, too fast?
No, I don't think I think you need to reframe it. So where's the idea of putting yourself out there? So this was coming from, I guess I should have put the whole scenario, but this is somebody who's trying to go live on Facebook or post or on social media in some way. So they feel like that's, yeah, they need to put themselves out there for say marketing. So they've told
Okay.
you that.
Okay. Gotcha. Um, yeah, I mean, so what's causing you to freeze up in those moments?
Okay. Deanna?
What feelings are coming up for you when you freeze?
Yep. Christina?
I don't know. I got to think. That was my question, the one Deanna just said.
Stole it right up from underneath. Yeah.
Okay,
That was what did
well-
she say again? Now I'm trying to figure out another one. What would happen if you don't put yourself out there? I don't know.
Okay. So that's kind of having them look at it like if you don't do the activity. Um, so I don't think that's deeper, but it's,
No.
it's to the other, it's looking at the other side of it. That's okay. Lori.
I don't remember what other people said, sorry. But what I would say is I get you have some fear around it. What could you do that will support you to get beyond that?
Okay. Valerie.
Have you ever had an experience of freezing like this before? Or,
So open-ended.
yeah, when have you had an experience of freezing like this before?
Okay. Kim.
Where does the need to go live come from?
Okay. So I'm kind of saying that we've already established that they need to go live in order to market their business. Or post, because it's going live or posting.
Oh, okay, yeah. So like, is it a should? Like, is it coming from them or is it coming from someone else?
Yeah, it's coming from them.
It's coming from them.
Yep. So, yeah, so you guys had good questions. Go ahead, Deanna.
Could you ask a question such as, what's another word you might use for phrase? Would that be interjecting anything?
I don't think it's interjecting, but I don't think that it's 100% relevant. Like we're not trying to change the language. We're trying to get to the root of why they feel that way. So
But
I think
I'm sorry, go ahead.
so I think the better direction is to when we're looking at laddering to get deeper. We've asked like why they freeze. And we have asked some other questions, but here it's more like oh, and then Valerie asked like for something similar with her question. But I think here is like where we can say something like, so we asked them why they feel like they freeze, and they've given us some sort of an answer. They're afraid of ridicule, maybe. Maybe that's the answer. They're afraid that people will, make fun of them or give them bad comments or negative comments or something like that. So we can then ask a question about the impact. So how would that person that you don't know commenting on your live impact you personally? How does that impact you? And then they might say, well, that might make me feel bad, or like I'm not useful, or the information I'm giving is not accurate, or something like that. Okay, then who determines that the information that you're giving is accurate or not? Right. So we could just keep going down that path, right? Or yeah, what do you call it? Peeling back the layer. That's not what I wanted to use because I always use that. but yeah, so we're going a step down with each question. So who determines whether or not that information is accurate? And you can even get into things like, how important is it that you have the approval of everyone? Right? Because maybe they're focusing on that. They tell you they're focusing on that one person that's going to come in and ruin everything, right? They're going to make that negative comment and they're just going to ruin the whole thing. And then we can even get even deeper and ask them questions around, why does that one person create that reaction in them? And then you start working towards questions to help them move past it, right? So how can you protect yourself against that one person? Like, what can you do to change your mindset around that, or whatever the questions are? But it's kind of systematically going down that ladder. Excuse me. Okay, let's try the second one. The overachiever trap. So if I'm not constantly achieving something, I feel like I'm falling behind. Let's try to track what others are asking. So if I'm not constantly achieving something, I feel like I'm falling behind. And let's start with Kim.
Okay, so if I'm not constantly achieving something, it feels like I'm constantly falling behind.
Feels like I'm falling behind if I'm not constantly achieving something.
Feels like I'm falling behind if I'm not constantly achieving something. Okay. Mm,
All right, let's get you some help. Somebody else?
Yeah, I'd probably ask falling behind what?
Yeah. What is it that you feel like you're falling behind on? Okay. Then what? Val?
Why do you think you feel that way?
Yeah. Why do you think you feel that way? Lori?
I think I would ask a question of where else do you feel like this? Right? If it's
Okay.
around a certain topic.
Yeah. And I just want to be careful. Like this is kind of a common question, but we want to just be careful about that. Sometimes we want to say, where else might?
Ah, good point. Thank you.
Uh-huh. What else? Deanna.
What's your measurement for achieving something?
Okay. What's your measurement of achieving something? Holly?
I mean, I guess then after that, probably maybe a decent question would be where does this drive of achieving come from, or what's driving this achievement feeling? I'm not saying right.
Yeah, where do you think this comes from?
Yeah. Well, that sounded too generic.
Well, I mean, you would say, where does this feeling of
I
yada
know.
yada come from? Um,
What
okay.
happens when what happens when you're what happens to you when you feel like you're falling behind? What are the emotions that come up when you're falling behind? That
Yeah,
probably
so
screams.
something like what happens or how do you feel when you do fall behind?
Okay, that's what I
How
meant
does
to
it
say.
affect you?
Okay,
Right?
that's what I meant to say.
Yeah. So how does it affect you? How does it show up when you feel like you're falling behind? But also something like, well, who determines that you're falling behind? Like, how do you determine whether or not you're falling behind? So what is their measurement? Because sometimes we can get a lot of focus around what's happening for somebody if we have how they're measuring it. So it's
What
not
hap-
just, hang on, it's not just what they say, it's how they're calculating it, right? So you feel like you're falling behind, you can like, what does that exactly mean for you to fall behind? How do you calculate that you fall behind? Or how do you measure that? Measure's the better word. Or ways to ask that question. Go ahead, Deanna.
I'm good. Go ahead.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
how's about like, where does that expectation come from?
Yeah.
Or,
Okay. Oops.
Yeah. Where does it come from? How often do you feel that way? When did you start feeling that way? Whatever. Something to get to the bottom of, when did this start happening, or how did this start happening, or, that's a good way to, again, get to the next level down. So we're in that ladder.
So
Um,
is this where we could say, where is this showing up in your body? Where they,
You could say when you feel like you're falling behind, where does that show up for you in your body? Yeah. Yeah. What else? George, do you have I know you're not with the caught up on the lesson part, but what kind of question do you think you could ask in that instance?
Well, again, and because I'm dropping late, I'm not really sure. I'm getting a sense of what we're doing. I have maybe a different perspective on motivation as a driver. So, an achievement, not motivation, sorry, on achievement as a motivation. So I'm not seeing that necessarily as a problem. I'm more interested in the part of the falling behind. So
Yeah.
I would want to find something around the, what does achievement really mean, to find out, is that like a primary motivation? And then what does falling behind look like you said, who says so, who establishes the criteria? Yeah, because
Yeah,
if
who
it
makes
is
up
a
the
genuine
rules?
driver, right, and if it is a genuine driver, I wouldn't want to address that like it's a problem to want to achieve.
No, but the feeling like you're falling behind is really the problem, right?
Yeah, and so then, it's like you said, who's deciding that? And then is it an internal or an external reference? And what are the conditions internally, externally for that?
Yeah. And so then the kind of the next question after you get these, we're kind of going down the ladder, is like, what would it feel like if you let go of that, feeling behind? Or what would it be like to let go of that feeling behind? What would replace it? Or what could replace it? Depending on how the conversation's gone so far. So we're having them examine some things, kind of get some awareness around some things, examine some things, and now we're saying, okay, let's look at this from a different perspective. How would it feel not to have that present? Because is that where they want to go? Because if that's where they want to go, they have to identify that first. Right? And then after this laddering down, coming back with, well, what have you learned about yourself through this, through this process that we just went through? About, what have you learned about, falling behind in that constant achievement? But definitely asking, what does constant achievement mean to them? Because that's going to be different for everybody. Constant achievement for one person might be they're getting something done every day towards a goal. Constant achievement for somebody else might be they're going, 6 hours a day towards that goal, or 8 hours a day towards that goal. And if they're not doing that for 6 or 8 hours, then they feel like they're falling behind. So you do need to get that measurement again first from them, and how they're calculating the constant, and then how they calculate how they're feeling behind as well. Okay. Let's see. We're going to stop because we're going to get to our coaching. So there's some other scenarios in here. What I'd really like you to do is, take these situations and write out a ladder of 3 to 4 questions for each one. So just kind of as a thing to do to help you to develop your questioning and your reflex. There is the engage and reflect scenarios, just quickly. The looping client. So your client revisits the same story every session. I know you've all had at least one client that's done that, and maybe more. But they go back to that story every single time. They describe the situation in great detail, but they don't move forward from it. No matter what you do, it feels like they're just not moving forward from it. It just means that we need to come up with better questions to help shift a perspective, right? So what question could help shift them from story to insight? And then how would you challenge the pattern while maintaining trust? Like, this is a pattern. Every time we get on the call, you know, this is not what you're going to say, but every time we get on the call, you bring up this story, right? And we don't really move forward in the goals because we're rehashing this story, you know, on each call, at the beginning of each call. So we need to help ask questions that are going to help them shift from the story into insight. So saying something like, you went over this the last couple times that we spoke. What do you feel is your biggest takeaway from this story, from your story? Or what is the biggest challenge from your story to moving forward? What do you like about this story? What do you dislike about the story? Get them away from telling the story and let's start figuring out why the story keeps coming up, right? And so once you ask them, like, what do you like about the story? Then it's easy to go down the ladder. Okay, they said they like such and such. Okay, so why do you like such and such? Or what does such and such do for you? You know, while you're telling the story, how does that impact you? Okay, now that we know the impact, well, what can we do to make sure that these things you can like recreate these things in other areas of your life and not have to keep going back to this one situation, right? So we can create that ladder of questions. And then challenging the pattern. So again, we're not saying, oh, you tell me the story every single time, right? You're bringing it up that, you've said this a couple times in our sessions, and I'm wondering, and this is just to, again, have them look at it from a different perspective, just saying, I'm wondering, what does it do for you to keep talking about this? And of course, you have to phrase that carefully, right? So maybe it's more like, so you've brought up this story the last couple times that we've spoken. What's really important about this for you that it's on your mind every time we get on a call, or on your mind the last few times that you've gotten on the call? So something that's going to first let them know that this is a pattern, and we've said that now because they've said it a couple times when they've gotten on the call, and then something that challenges them to look at why they're doing it. Why is it important? What does it mean for them? Why do they keep bringing it up? And then you can ladder that down as well. So we have that challenge in there in a trusting way, and then we do the laddering down. Okay. So integrating reflective inquiry into your coaching, start with the client's language, mirror their keywords or phrases, stay in their world, don't bring them into your world. Ask open-ended, non-directive questions that explore emotions, values, and beliefs. Slow down. The biggest thing you can do for yourself and your clients is to slow down. I know I've talked about this already, but slow down the whole conversation. Slow it down. Trust your intuition to ask the bold, respectful questions that need to be asked as well as that you want to ask. Okay. Let's move on to our coaching. So first up, we have Holly coaching Georgie.
I need a
So-
potty break.
Oh, go ahead. All right. Well, we'll take it now. We'll just take the 5-minute break
Sorry.
now, and then we'll come back and get started with the coaching.
Okay.
So 7:35. Go ahead, Deanna.
I am looking for the list that we're supposed to be critiquing. The competencies
observation
that we're
form?
listening for. Yes, observation form. That's what I'm looking for.
You don't have it?
I did have it, but I don't think I have it like now.
All right. It is in Up Coach, but let me see if I can grab it really quick.
Well, I traveled with it and now it's not with me. Where could it be? Where did I put it?
I don't know, but I would put all this stuff in like a folder on your computer, but I'm gonna send it through the chat in the Zoom
Okay, all right. Thank you, Coach.
if I find it.
You know, I do have one of those folders started. It just doesn't have this in it. Oh,
Okay, I'm gonna walk away real quick.
okay. Hey, Cheryl, if you can hear me, I found my sheet.
Okay. I did put the form in the chat for anyone that needed it.
Thank you, and I found it.
Okay, and we're gonna do, let's see. We'll do agreement. So 3 will be Valerie. 4 will be Lori. 5 will be Kim. 6 will be Christine. Who's left? 7 will be Deanna. I get everybody? Okay. All right. It is 7:35, so you'll have 30 minutes to 8:05. You guys have the floor. Everybody else can go off camera and mute.
Hey, Georgie.
Hi, Holly.
How are you?
I'm doing well, and you?
Good, good. Hope your meeting went well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. My apologies for being late here.
Oh, that is life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, before we get started tonight, is there anything, as my friend always said, that you need to just kind of like put in a bubble, just blow it away before we get started?
No, but I just want to share with you, I want to disclose, I always feel a little bit like I have to do this. I drink,
Oh.
my way of drinking caffeine is drinking mate. I don't know if you guys have seen me doing that. It's an Argentinian thing. We just pour hot water into a vessel that has a bunch of green tea. And then, so this is my afternoon coffee. It's my version.
Yes.
I'll be
I
doing
remember
this.
you doing that, WCI.
Oh, cool, right.
Yeah, and then after that, I think it was like on a documentary or something. Like I saw it and I was like, oh, I already know what that is.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Right.
Well, before we start talking about what you want to talk about tonight, I just wanted to remind you that this is a judgment-free zone, so everything is safe. And that I do take notes. So if you see me looking down, I'm just taking notes. I'm not ignoring you.
Cool. So will I.
Okay. Good, that's a good side. So what would you like to talk about tonight?
I think what has been coming up for me a little bit is that I would love to find a better work-life balance. But I'm also working through a lot. I'm working as a coach, I'm working as a psychology intern in a clinic, and I am actually working on my dissertation, my PhD and my dissertation. And aside from having my my family life, and yeah, just I really want to do it all, and I want to find some balance.
What would having balance in this situation look like for you?
I'm not really sure. I think I've just been feeling a little, I don't know if overwhelmed. I think that there are some shoulds that are navigating there. If I could have it my way, I'm a total achiever, and if I could have it my way, I would just be focusing on my dissertation 24/7, because I'm really enjoying the process of writing and researching and reading. But that's not life.
So when you're thinking about that work-life balance and the 3, well, actually the 4, because your family, all the things going on, where do you find yourself most I don't want to say hung up's not the right word, but where out of those 4 do you kind of feel like the snag that's out of balance?
I think I want to say family life. Family life and personal life. It's just not it's not family, it's like spending time with my animals, spending time in my garden and yard, spending time with my friends. Social life, I guess I would call it. Yeah.
Dog time is very important for our souls.
Yeah.
So then what would it look like for you to be successful in this session or by the end of the session?
Um, I don't know. Let's see. Let me feel into that. I feel nervous. I hear that question. I feel a little nervous of digging myself into creating a sense of commitment around finding some time boundary on something that then I'm not going to be able to follow through. So I'm feeling really prudent about that right now. Can you ask that question again? Sorry.
Well, I actually want to ask what about the time boundary
Hmm.
makes you fearful?
Well, like, I could easily say, oh, I could work on creating more calendar boundaries and saying I'm done with this at this
Mhm.
time and then at this time. But then I know that if I can't follow through with that,
Yeah.
then I start feeling guilty, and then, then that
Mhm.
adds more stress to it all.
Yeah. So what would allow you during our session to explore this area without having to come up with the typical
Mm-hmm.
timeline or schedule that you're fearing?
Mm-hmm. Um, I think, as I'm just talking about hearing myself and then hearing you ask these questions, what comes up is a little questioning that need for balance. As, as I thought through what you just asked, I think that there's more of a sense of imposed pressure from the outside more than, internally. I think I'm managing fairly well considering all things going on.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe it's about communicating that with those around me and making sure everybody's on the same page and not having any expectations, that are not um any false expectations. Mm. I
What
don't
would
know.
it feel?
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go on.
I don't know how to communicate that to my dogs, but
That's different. That's why
um,
they come first.
yes.
How would it feel to have that communication out there with your friends about your schedule and life right now?
I think it would be kind of relieving a little bit. Is like, I mean, it's part of what's going. They all know, all the things that I'm juggling. Um, and they're super understanding, but in part of that, then I get noticed that they automatically don't invite me to things, or they skip over
Mhm.
things, because which is fine. They make this assumption, but a part of me is having a little FOMO, like,
Mm.
wait there, but maybe it's just about having some transparency with them and them knowing where I'm at.
Yeah, so what do you envision when you think about communicating with them?
Um, Maybe sending them kind of left field, unplanned message, just telling them how much I love them and appreciate them, and more about how much I'm looking forward to spending time again when my schedule opens up a little bit towards the end of the
Mhm.
year.
How does it feel to think about having that communication out there?
It feels good. It feels genuine, genuinely expressing to them what I'd like to do, what I feel for them, and how I'm missing the relationship, or
Yeah. What
mm.
else would you like to express to them?
um just this, some piece about um what they mean for me, what their friendship means to
Mhm.
me, some just sharing some sense of value,
Mhm.
and expressing that, so that even though I'm not really present right now, they know what
Mm.
what they mean to me.
You brought up FOMO a few minutes ago. How could you well, let me ask this first. When do you feel the FOMO the most?
It's not really full on FOMO. It's a moment. I think that there's a part of me that just wants to be good in all my relations, that wants to have
Mm,
and so it's not really FOMO about, oh no, I wish I could go do this thing with them. It's more
mhm,
about wanting to make sure I'm in good relationship with each one of them. It's the part of me that wants to make sure I'm not missing a piece of the homework or a
mhm.
piece of the social homework.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you measure that if you're missing a piece or not?
I don't know that I do. Um, I think it's a felt sense, but
Mhm,
I think what we were just talking about, getting out of my way, and so it doesn't cost me much
mhm,
to at night or first thing in the morning, whenever I have
mhm,
some me time, to send them here and there, send each of them some loving message
mhm.
about what they mean to me. Um, I think that that would take care of the FOMO.
What's been stopping you from doing that so far?
I haven't thought of it.
Oh, well, that's there you go. Yeah,
Thank you, Molly. I
good and
hadn't thought about it till
straightforward.
now.
Okay, so we're gonna send that out. Not we, you,
Yeah.
work on that. Um, so you said that you really want to share with them the value they have in your life, that you miss them, you love them. Um, what if any like more interaction are you looking for with them, like out of
None.
this communication?
None. Can't.
Yeah,
I'm mixed out. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
it has to be spontaneous, if one day suddenly I have some capacity because I'm not writing this weekend and I have some time to go do something, there can be a spontaneous encounter,
mhm,
but can't really plan on anything.
yeah. So how could you express that to them?
Just like that, by telling them,
Okay,
um,
yeah.
I miss you. If keep having this in my attention, if it feels spontaneous at some point, I'll reach out, but otherwise know that you're
Mhm, yeah.
in my thoughts, and for me, waiting for me to not waiting, but having that sense of longing for when this is over so we can kind
Yeah.
of resume our friendship connection.
Have any of your friends brought this up?
No, no, no. My friends are one is a psychologist herself, two are therapists, and the other one is a full-time mom of foster kids, so
Hmm,
they all have busy lives too.
yeah,
Yeah.
very understanding friends.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So what are you learning right now as we talk about you communicating with your friends?
That it's a lot simpler, that the nurturing the sense of balance, um, that nurturing the sense of balance is a lot simpler than I thought. And, it can be a heartfelt thing rather than a scheduled calendar thing. And yeah, the balance is, and then as I'm saying that, I think that balance is also not just a timesheet piece, but it can
Mhm,
be a balance about how I feel. I'm actually really happy. I'm busy and super maxed out, but I'm happy doing what I'm doing. It's taking a bit of a toll on my body and my physical health. But and I wish maybe that weren't so. I just don't see the time now where I fit
mm,
workouts or any other things. And I think I have a level of acceptance with that. Maybe that's another piece of
mhm,
balance that is um, wanting to be met, is the personal self-care in the midst of all of this.
yeah.
I'm just not sure how to reconcile that one.
What other times in your life have you had such a crazy packed schedule?
Uh, have I? Think maybe about 7 years ago when I'm part now of a pretty large company, but at the beginning we were a startup, and at the beginning of that startup, and it was right like the first year of COVID. It was that kind of busyness. And because it was COVID, I was also not going to the gym, not just because I think it was when it all started, when I went like, oh, I can't go to the gym, might as well work all the time. I think a bunch of us, at least in the company, a lot of us did that.
So what I'm hearing you say is then you didn't find a balance during that time.
I wasn't looking for it either. I don't know if you
Yeah.
ever this experience, but I've been before doing this work, I was a fitness coach for a part of my life, and I was really active. So I think I had a few years, previous years, of a lot of fitness and wellness that it took a while for me to actually feel like crap. The leftover wellness in me built in. I was like, oh, sure, I can put a year with just sitting up in bed and not doing anything, because
Yeah.
until now, I've been so it took me a while to actually start feeling the pain of not having that.
So when did you start to have the awareness of not being balanced in your family and personal life?
When I went to my doctor's annual checkup about a year and a half ago, and I noticed how much weight I gained. And my doctor making a comment about it.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how did you handle the comment that they made?
Well, I knew he was right. And um, and it hurt, and I think it's been there, like I've been trying, with doing diet a little bit, but I know the diet alone is not going to cut it just by not having. So I get to walk my dogs, and do some moving around, but I'm definitely not, by taking my dogs for a walk once a day, I'm not burning at all the calories that I'm consuming. So there's a little bit of that, but then again, the reward that I feel, I don't know, I'm in a weird stage, and I don't know if this is menopausal time, but I'm in this place of going, whatever. I'm feeling really good in my heart. I'm really feeling really good in my mind with how much I'm doing and accomplishing. Maybe it's about a different quality of life and fitness than having my sense of wellness be what it was before. But so I don't know.
Yeah, what could that look like in this season of your life?
I think it's finding a different, maybe redefining what wellness or fitness means to me at this time. It might not be, I used to be for a while I was a competitive cyclist, and then I did competitive canoe racing here in Hawaii. I was really involved with that. Definitely not anywhere close to doing any of that. I think if I knit now, that might be enough of a workout.
Yeah, canoeing's intense.
It is. It's super intense, and it was so much, so time consuming. My partner and I were both doing that, and we stopped right before COVID, and then, whatever, life took over and no more of that. But yeah, so there's no way that I can get back into that, and that's fine. That's fine. Maybe it's redefining. I think last weekend I tried to do a workout from, the workouts I used to try to do, and I gave myself sciatica. I hurt my ankles. Like, no, what am I thinking? I know better. I cannot be doing the workout I was doing, 10 years ago when I was super fit and hormones were different in my body. So maybe it's that. It's kind of running myself through a different program.
So what does wellness feel like for you right now?
Well, going back to the original question, I think it's having a sense of balance more than anything, a balance between all the things that I'm doing. Wellness used to be more of a physical experience for me, and I think, I mean, I feel I'm really excited with all the discoveries and all the work and research I'm doing, and that is part of my wellness now.
Yeah.
It's a little more inclusive of different parts of my being.
And how does it feel to come to that realization?
It feels good. It feels natural. It feels authentic. Mm.
And where is the thought of fitness in your mind as you think about your new definition of wellness?
I think it has a little more kindness to it. Like, well, if you know, if I can only walk the dogs, so be it. If I maybe can get on the bike just a little bit, if I can do something, and maybe baby steps a little bit. I always say with financial wellness, I always say $1 in the bank is better than $0 in the bank. So so similar to that, maybe.
Yeah.
Mm.
So earlier you said you wanted to reach out to your friends, send them a message. Is that still top priority to do?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know if it's a priority, but it's important
Oh,
to do it. Yeah,
sorry. Yeah.
it's okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Put that word in your mouth.
yeah. It's okay.
Um, what, if anything else, would you like to do in the coming days and whatever time frame you need to do it in? Would you like to do to help yourself, redefine wellness and balance?
I think as I was hearing myself talk about that when you asked the question of what wellness would mean right now, um, the image that came to me is, when I'm doing research and I'm working on my dissertation, my own process for doing that is I have to incorporate my body somehow, so that I'm not just in my brain, right? So I'll write, I read, whatever I'm doing, and then I do these moments of getting up, even if it's for 5 minutes, folding laundry, playing with the dogs, doing something random, cleaning the bathroom, whatever it is, and then get back to it, and just so that it stays dynamic within me. But I got curious, what would it be like if I got up and did, walked on the treadmill for, I don't know, those 5 minutes or something, so those moments that are built in already in my process of doing the dissertation are a little more specifically geared towards my exercise, getting my heart rate going up a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm. That feels kind. It feels like an easy, doable step.
Good.
Mm.
What's one other way you could be kind to yourself in the next couple months?
I think it's just keep reminding myself. I do this, and my mom is really good at doing this for me, but reminding myself that I'm on track, that I'm doing. It's this one year. I've known it for a while that 2025 was going to be the intense year, and it's just reminding myself we're on track, and this too shall pass.
Yeah, what could you use as a reminder?
Writing that, just even that, having that. I don't know if this too shall pass sometimes reminds me of when things are not
Yeah.
okay. But something more optimistic, like I'm on track, all is good, I'm on track, and having some little note or something like that.
Yeah, how could because you said repeatedly just how happy and fulfilled you are
Yeah,
in this season, even though it's tiring.
yeah.
So how can you add some of that into what you're writing or how you remind
Oh
yourself?
yeah, that's a good idea. Like having some statement in there. I love what I'm doing. I'm really happy. You know, I'm happy with it, what I'm doing, and
Yeah.
and then checking in. When I was talking about, I don't know how much time we have. I forget when we started, where we're at.
We have like 5 minutes left.
Yeah, no, that feels good. The client
I know.
last minute. Oh, let me add this whole other
Oh, there's
thing. No, we're good.
well, let me ask though then, what does happiness look like for you in this season?
It's what I'm experiencing now. I
Yeah.
feel I'm happy. It's just there's a lot going on, and I think happiness would feel a little bit more like somehow being able to include those that I love in my experience, but you know, they can't be sitting here next to me while I'm working, studying.
Right.
But maybe there is something about, like, I do this with my mom almost every day. I talk with my mom every day, just she's elder. And I know it makes her really happy when I share some discovery. Like, I learned this today, or, you know, I helped a client with this thing today. It's, even though she's not in the industry, or it just makes her happy to hear my stories because she feels involved.
Yeah.
And it makes me happy to feel her happy. So maybe finding some way to do that with my partner, with those that I love, and just share some tidbit of something I discovered in the day.
Yeah. So you've said happiness a lot, quite a few times, and being kind. So what's the link between those two words for you?
Oh, they feel totally connected. I don't know.
Yeah.
Kindness from in my worldview, kindness is the medicine and the gift, the opportunity that we have to be here. So, you know, self-kindness and kindness with others is really for where it's at for me.
So who do you have that you could talk to about your desire to be kind to yourself, and to reach out to your loved ones and just express how much you miss them and value them?
I think my partner, that's who comes up first, because he's kind of
Yeah.
involved in some of the same community. So I have a feeling
Yeah.
he can also be, he can participate in that a little bit more, and maybe, you know, can link some of those relations as well.
How does it feel now that you've kind of come to this conclusion and these ideas?
I feel good. Thank you. I feel good. Being reminded, or reminding myself, first of all, having that redefining my sense of wellness, and then having this simple little exercise of just reaching out to friends and reminding them what they mean to me.
Yeah. Those are great insights.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to address in our session?
No, that feels good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you both. Oh, did we lose Val? Oh, there she is. Okay. So Holly, how did you feel about that session?
My brain felt a little scattered, especially at the beginning. And then I kind of felt like in the middle, we were starting to like make some ground, when I was able to kind of get some, I guess I'll say, deeper answers, right? Because she's so insightful, um, and quick to, realize these things, as most coaches are. So I think that was making me a little, it just was kind of adding to the scatteredness. But then I kind of felt like we got to a pace where we were digging in a little bit more.
Okay. So what do you feel you did well?
Um, yeah, I'm not feeling like I did a lot of things like really well, especially for a PCC. I don't feel like I asked great questions. I was doing my best to listen, which I'm pretty good at. So, the listening aspect and doing my best to kind of track with her where she was going.
How about, what do you feel the most improvement was needed?
Just, I think the exploratory questions, like finding a way to get in sooner with her. Yeah, just the whole sense of exploring the next level.
Okay. All right, thank you. So let's look at our observation forms. And oh, that was stupid. So who did we have for 3? Was it Kim? No? Who had 3? We scroll back up. Oh, so Valerie, you had 3? You're on mute.
I'm really sorry. I didn't see anything in the chat and I stepped away from my computer. So are you looking at the chat?
Oh, I get it transcribed. It's what I said before
Oh,
we all
yeah,
left the screen.
I think I'd stepped away. I'm really sorry. So I didn't.
Okay. Who else can tell me about agreement? Anybody paying attention to that area? If not, I'll just do it, but okay. All right, so the agreement is actually the area that I'm gonna focus on anyway for your feedback, Holly, because you didn't really have an agreement. And you know, the thing, it's actually for everybody. We really need to start focusing in on making sure we're getting the agreement, even if it's a little rote at first, because it can throw off almost everything else in the conversation. Where if you have a strong agreement, a lot of things are going to flow from that agreement. And so maybe you might have 1 or 2 things, you know, that fall off or whatever, but it's just so much more when there's not a strong agreement. So, you know, you asked good questions to get the agreement. You talked about, well, you know, you asked which one to talk about. What would it look like to be successful in the session? We didn't get answers for those, right? Not clear answers. And so we had to keep going back to it, right? You asked some other questions around it, like where do you find what would having balance in this situation look like for you? So you were following up with what you were hearing. What about the time boundary brings up that fear? What would allow you to explore this area without having to come up with a typical timeline? So you've asking questions around it, but not the straight like, okay, so what do you want to walk away with by the end of the session?
So that's what I needed to do. I was like dancing around it by that point because I was dancing and I wasn't getting like fully direct. So then I just need to be okay.
Yeah, you be direct. So, you know, those other questions are good questions and they made for the exploration piece, but you know, you need to ask that direct question. What do you want to walk away with?
Cheryl, can I ask you there if somebody, let's imagine I'm role playing myself here, but let's imagine that she would have asked me that and I kept on saying like, I'm not really sure. How can you is there a way to keep coaxing that?
Well, I mean, so you have to ask better questions or more direct questions. So, in this case, if you weren't able to answer her with that question, I would have gone around the feeling of it. I would have said, okay, so you told me that, you know, you would like to have that balance, but that there's some fear there. So how do you want to feel at the end of the session? Right now you have this fear around it. You know, what would feel good at the end of the session for you? So you can start with that kind of a measurement if you can't get anything else clear. But I would try to get the clarity first on the other areas.
Because I think Holly did, and maybe she was looking for a context in building, but I thought she asked me when I wasn't really clear about what I wanted to do today or didn't really answer that. I felt like her answers her questions got me to think about it, and then we kind of implicitly ended up in an agreement, but we didn't name it.
So I think she explored around it. Definitely. That was the questions that I brought up were, we're exploring around it, but we have to be very direct in getting that outcome.
Mm.
You have to be direct, and you have to know what, you have to know what it is, because ultimately you want to check in at the end to see if you've been successful, whether that's saying, and you want to check on progress too. That was another, if you think to yourself, I'm going to have to check on progress, I need to know what progress I'm checking on.
Right.
Right. So, 3/4 of the way down, how close are we to getting to that feeling of eliminating the fear around yada, yada?
Yeah.
So there's something there that we need to do. And if we don't have that outcome, specific outcome, then we're not going to be able to do it. And also, I mean, it depends on the clients, but a lot of the times the clients aren't going to feel successful because they haven't named a specific thing. Not everybody, but you do that a couple sessions and people are going to say, well, what exactly am I getting out of it? Like, there's no real concrete measurements for them. We really just need to have that measurement in every call. And plus, it's a competency, so you have to have it. Okay. How about 4? 4 was,
That was
what
me.
was 4? Oh, go ahead, Lori.
I really thought that Holly was supportive and empathetic. Like she really did an amazing job at that. She especially like she validated her emotions at the beginning, asked questions around like how she was feeling. And especially when it came to the doctor commenting on the weight. Like she really stood there with her. And I felt because of that, she then asked other questions that allowed her to respond. Like, so she wasn't leading with her questions. She was kind of like asking the question, and however the client showed up,
Yeah. Yeah, good. Thanks. 5
That's me.
was Kim.
Yeah, so 5.1, coaching the person. So what do you envision when you communicate with them? What does wellness look like for you? 5.2, coaching the agenda. What would it look like at the end of the session? Invites client's choice. What do you want to talk about together? And yeah, I felt that for 5.4, she did like a lot of curiosity questions about the client. There was lots of examples. And I felt like the silence and the pause, like she, like allowed her to have that space to talk. But I was wondering if maybe there could have been a little bit more silence after Georgie like stopped talking, because it felt like he jumped in quite quickly when George so that's
So make sure we're giving that extra like 10 seconds after the client answers, right? Because there was a couple times that you wound up talking over her because you didn't give her that space. But yeah, so definitely I had that too. I had it as somewhat for silence and pause. I had the same examples that you had as well, like what do you envision? Also about like what else would you like to express? That's coaching the person, and probably the agenda, although we didn't really have that outcome. Okay, and then 6 is Christine.
Yeah, that's me. Sorry, I think I missed some of this. My husband came home late today, out of the ordinary, and my dogs lost their crap. So I had a hard time hearing some of this, you guys. Sorry about that. But what I did get, yeah, custom language was really good. She used her language about a busy packed schedule, about not being balanced, happy and fulfilled, like specific language that was used. 6.2 explored words, sharing the value in their life, exploring being kind and happiness, and exploring emotions. Several times she asked, what does wellness feel like right now? How does it feel to come to this realization? How does it feel now that she has to come to those conclusions? I did not get 6.4 energy shifts. Maybe it was during my dog moment, but I did not grasp that one. And 6.5, perceptions, beliefs, and assumptions. What's she learning about herself discussing this?
Yeah. Yeah. And then we had the no interruptions and succinct summary. So the no interruptions is a somewhat. And then the succinct summary. So I think that you summarized back pretty well. And I liked the client exploring words about the FOMO. You explored that, where do you feel the FOMO most? You explored that term from her. So that was good too.
Oh, sorry, that was on a different page and I just did not get that page.
It's okay.
I was like, where is she getting that from? My apologies.
And then 7, Deanna.
Okay, so I've got for, let's say 7.3, which is expands the what topic. Coach asks questions to help the client to explore beyond what current is thinking. And so when she said that she felt out of balance, and then the doctor said the weight gain, she came right in with, how did you handle that feedback? And then 7.6, she was asking, 7.4, when she was talking about redefining what balance looks like, that kind of expanded her into a new set of thinking. And 7.1, early when they were talking about how would you measure if what was missing, and then she came in with what are you learning about yourself here, and then that brought her the expansion of heartfelt rather than checking boxes, and balance of how I feel. And so let's see. And I love 7.7 is a concise language. And so one of my favorite, she got on a roll here, she got things working out. And then she just simply said, what else? And I love that, because once you get a client, hitting on all 8 cylinders, and you just sit back and what else could you do? What else? And so, yeah, that's what I got. And number 7.4 is how can you work this into your daily writing? And so she said that she could include people in her everyday life, and her mom and her partner. And then she got into the happiness piece, which really, blew it out for the client, I thought.
Yeah. Okay, good. And then for 8, you asked what are you learning right now as we talk? Great question to check in on that new learning. And then, what does wellness feel like right now? After after you've gotten to that point in the conversation. So what does it feel like for you now? And then you mentioned being happy. How can you add some of that to remind yourself, kind of applying that new learning in some way? And then you had a couple questions for the post session activity. So what else might you have to do to redefine wellness? What's one other thing you can do to be kind to yourself? And then what could you use as a reminder? All great questions. And the accountability piece, you went with who can you talk to? Remember, we probably, unless you know that that's how your client works most of the time, like you want to keep it a little bit more general. So something like, what kind of support do you need in order to yada yada. And then also, so by the time you said there was 6 minutes, you had some time there to go over challenges, right? So, what could get in the way? So don't forget to address that. What could potentially come up that would, push you back in redefining how you're thinking about wellness or whatever, however you would ask that question. So make sure we're always checking in on obstacles and accountability. And then, the exploring progress, that's really important. Again, when you have a strong coaching agreement, you can ask that question pretty easily because you know what the outcome is. Or the outcome that they want is. So you can ask about halfway or 3/4 of the way through, how are we doing, as far as progressing towards yada yada, and ask them, because if they don't feel like they're, now in this case, the whole impression was Georgia was making a lot of progress. So I'm not saying that that's not the case, but we have to check in with the client. We can't assume, right? And it's not always going to be clear, like it was in this one. Okay. Questions about that or the feedback before we move to the next session? How do you feel with that feedback as well, Holly?
Yeah, I think it's good. Fair.
Cheryl, as it is, given where we went from the start and you know, markers met, markers not met, as it is, like if this would have been a recording, and I know we would have had more time, so maybe, you know, we would have nailed some more things. Would have this passed a PCC as it was
No, they want
because
to.
of the agreement?
The agreement is the first thing.
Yeah.
The first thing they're going to look at is that agreement.
Sorry, I thought you did great. Okay.
Yeah. So, and really, if you look at the coaching model, I would just, those 4 things,
Yeah.
again, I don't care if it's rote, just do it until you get used to it. Topic, outcome, measurement. Why is it important? What does it mean for you to have it? Get those 4 things, you're going to have a really strong agreement.
Yeah.
Everybody. Okay. Next one is Kim coaching Lori. So everybody else can go off, and I'm just going to do the feedback on this one. And it is 8:20, so you're going to have until 8:50. You have the floor.
Hi, Lori.
Hi, Kim.
Nice to see you.
So good to see you.
So, what brings you in today?
You know, I am looking for some clarity on what I want to some clarity around what do I want as my messaging on social media. And I'll get a little bit more specific with you on that. So, I know my pain points and I know the solutions that I bring. And I've hired somebody to help me just kind of write posts and like cross posts throughout multiple platforms. And I feel that my engagement is not where I want it to be. So I'm like, I need to do something different. So I'd like to explore that a bit today and see what we could tease out.
Okay, and what would you like to walk away with by the end of this session?
I think just a better understanding of the pain point that I'm serving and the solution that I'm giving.
Okay, and then how would you know that you've achieved that today?
It'll just be very clear for me.
And what does that look like for you to be very clear?
I think we'll have something that's concrete, like we'll have a solution, well, we'll have a pain point that I'm speaking into, right? Because I have a lot that I could talk about. I mean, you've been with me for the past few years. You know, I've gone through so much. And there's some that I'm shying away from, and there's some that I know that feel really good. And so I want to make sure that the one that I choose is really what I want. So I'll be very clear in it. I'm not sure if that helps you, but
No, this is about you. So, and so, sorry, I'm just getting over a cough, so I'm just,
I hate that.
um, so how important is this for you?
Oh, it's really important because I am now pivoting to 100% coaching. It's, you know, I have a goal that within the next 3 months I could leave the hospital. So I don't like being in the hospital. It is something that I am, even though I love what I do, it's not good for my wellness to be there. So it's kind of like crunch time for me. It's either I need to do this or I need to find something else.
So what I heard you say was that you would like to walk away at the end of this session with some more clarity.
Mhm.
And what specifically about that clarity would you like to have?
I guess I would like to have 2 or 3 topics
Okay.
for me to be able to kind of then journal on and get really clear as to what I'm going to share around them.
Okay, and what would having those 2 or 3 topics give you by the end of the session?
Tons of content. It'll allow me to feel secure, I guess not really secure, but so what I'm looking for. Confident. It'll allow me to feel confident that what I'm posting is exactly what I want to be doing.
Okay. And so where would you like to start this session?
So I have a list already of like topics, and I know what I don't want to talk about. So, you know, a a lot of a lot of what I have overcome is all because of my mindset, right? I mean, there's physical things, but I really believe that I'm still standing on my 2 feet, moving forward in life, because I have done courses like this. I've done a lot of work, personal work, um, that has me be resilient. So I'm just not clear as to how to communicate that for people because I don't want to make it about me. I want to make it about them.
And how does this align with your 2 or 3 topics that you would like to have at the end of the session?
Um, it actually aligns because that is part of how I want to serve people is by having them recognize that they could do it too, right? Like that I'm not special. I've just gone through probably a little bit more stuff in a short amount of time than, most people most people have it, on a longer timeline than everything that's happened to me within the past, year and 2.
So what's important for you to have 2 or 3 topics?
Um, by having like a clear vision on that, some clarity around like the pain point that I really want to express, um, I'll then be able to either task myself or the person that I hire to go ahead and create posts that end up converting.
What pain point would you like to be focusing on?
Well, I was, thinking about this during my morning walk. And the first one that always comes up is people usually wait until something really bad happens to them before they get, let's say, in wellness, right? Like they get a diagnosis, like somebody dies or something happens before they start taking stuff seriously. And nobody kind of wants to hear it that way. So I'm kind of looking for language around that would be able to express what I'm trying to say, but also capture people's attention. It's like that saying, if you don't make time for your wellness, you'll have to make time for your illness. It's like along that line, right? Um, And then the other thing, so I could play around with that, but the other thing too, that for me, that's a huge shift, and I'm gonna ruffle some feathers if I really talk about it, is partnering, my journey of how I partnered conventional medicine with holistic, and having a background of 100% conventional medicine, a lot of my peers aren't in agreement. So I have this limitation where I'm like, what are people going to think? And then at the same time, I'm like, I don't care because it cured me, right? So maybe we could
There's a lot that you had just shared there.
Mhm.
You know, was there a feeling you were experiencing when you were talking about that just now?
Yeah, I mean, it's, it came clear to me that this is what I need to talk about. Right? This is the thing that I feel like people are either in one camp or the other, and people don't usually blend it. And I kind of feel like what's coming up for me is like, is there really anybody better to do that than me? Because I have the 30 years experience of conventional medicine, and then I have the personal experience of throwing that aside and going down the holistic route, where that solved everything that conventional was just holding at bay.
How
So
important? Oh, sorry.
no, that's okay. So when I say that out loud, I'm kind of like, okay, well, that's exactly what, and I keep shying away from it. But I talk about it freely, and when people reach out to me, I talk about it freely in DMs. I mean, I have so many people, and I guess not that I have a fear around, well, I do, my fear is around monetizing it. I've always shied away from monetizing like the whole cancer journey thing, because I've had a lot of, I've had people tell me like, how dare I do that? And so it makes me not want to play in that area. But then at the same time, if you're a doctor and you're an oncologist, you're going to get paid to see people so you could help them. So I'm kind of like, what's coming up for me is like, just cut it out and just start talking and just put blinders on and keep going forward. Because one of my big missions this year, one of my big goals for 2025 is to get on a big enough stage where I could share this conversation. And ultimately, I am literally one person away from being able to talk to Robert Kennedy Jr. So I know this is kind of like, welcome to coaching, going on a totally left field, but this is exactly what I need to do. And why not start it in my social?
Yeah.
So-
So how would having those 2 or 3 topics fall in line with that goal of that one step away from speaking to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the 2 to 3 topics can actually talk about blending, because I believe you can blend conventional and holistic, or non-conventional, however people want to call it, right? I believe it shouldn't have to be one or the other. So that really should be part of what I am talking about. Because that's really my belief, and I really think that a lot of people can be spared a lot of morbidity because of it. So my first topic is, what would it look like to blend them for people? Then the benefits for them, and then give them proof of why it works.
And what would the topic be?
The topic would be that, you can do holistic therapies like ozone and hyperbaric chamber and meditation and red light therapy and PEMF and all these things that are not provided in a regular hospital.
So that was a bit of a mouthful.
Yeah, but
Would
that's
is that how you would like to come across for your topic?
I think I could educate people on what each of those modalities are and what they can do, right? Because when people reach out to me and they're like, "Oh, I'm experiencing, I don't know, like I get Charlie horses all the time." Like the first thing I tell them is like, "Do you take magnesium?" Like people are like, "What's that?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, like what do you mean?" And like I don't make them wrong, but I'm just kind of like I walk them through things that I just kind of assume that people know. Right?
Mm-hmm. I can
So
hear I can hear the passion in your voice. And I hear how important this is for you.
Well, I am really passionate about it because if I didn't take the chance on it, I probably wouldn't be on this call right now. And so I kind of feel like I'm sitting on something that can really benefit people, and I'm just in the way of it.
I would just like to take a moment here just to acknowledge that energy shift that I just felt with you. That was pretty heartfelt.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So getting back to your 2 or 3 topics,
Mhm.
how do you feel we are on track with this?
I'm actually clear on it. I think the one thing that I would like to maybe explore a little bit is worst case scenarios, maybe my fear around that, because if that's okay with you, I don't know where we are on time, but
Wherever you want to go. Yeah, we have until 8:50.
okay. Um, so about I don't know, maybe 6 weeks ago on X, I kind of started sharing this. I kind of started sharing myself and exactly what I'm talking about. And my posts went viral. So within like 2 days, I had over 500,000 people see it. And with that came a lot of people in my DMs asking me what I did and how did I do it and all this stuff. And I've supported a lot of people through that. I haven't asked for money. I haven't been compensated on it. But the other side of it too was that then I got some really nasty people. And I try to stand behind the thought of, you're doing something right when you piss people off, right? But at the same time, it made me kind of like, it made me shy away from talking about it. I felt I was making myself a target for people that I don't know and just bringing negativity into my life. So I guess I need to kind of look and see how I can shield myself a little bit from some of the comments that are going to come my way from doing that. And that's the fear that I have. It's like I have a lack of trust that I won't get that.
So what is behind your fear?
Oh, I think a lot of it. I think one, it's like I'm not a doctor, right? Um, so it's the credibility thing, even though, you know, I know medicine, but I'm still not an MD. I'm not a naturopath. I'm not an OD. Um, I think I just hate seeing that side of humanity. Like I'm an empath, so I feel it really deeply. Um,
So when you speak to like about speaking to people's pain points,
mhm.
you know, and you're talking about holistic wellness, the natural ways, and you speak of experience. How do you feel that that is of a value?
Well, I mean, I have a firsthand account on it. So I guess my fear is that people are going to believe I made it up. And I think part of it too is because I'm a little bit out of integrity because my oncologist um doesn't agree with it. So I've carried on doing the holistic therapies without them knowing, and I've been kind of hiding it. I haven't been really hiding it, but they haven't asked, so I haven't fully disclosed it, and I've been like putting off some of my, like I stopped taking my conventional chemotherapy. You know, I've been putting off my PET scan. So like that all comes in because I try to always just be a person of my word, and but then at the same time I was just so pissed off that they were kind of not being very kind to me because I went to the other side. And they don't understand it. They're not taught it, so they don't believe in it. And I know that because I was there too.
Yeah. So when you switch gears and wanted to talk about fear, how
Mhm.
will you know that you've accomplished what you need to regarding that?
I think I need to have some, I need to think about what systems I could put in place if it does get to a point where I start getting a lot of negativity. It's a hot button topic, to be honest.
It sounds to me, you know, like you put yourself out there with your talk already. You mentioned that there was like,
Mhm.
what did you say? Like 1 million? Was that
Oh, I stopped counting at a half a
that
million. I
half?
don't know what,
So 500,000.
I don't
So
know what it is that now.
yeah. And so how was it that you were able to follow through with accomplishing that?
I turned off my notifications.
Did that help?
Yeah, because first of all, my phone was buzzing every second, and then once some people got really mean about it, I just didn't want to see it, so it did help. So yeah, I could do that. I could hire somebody to go through my notifications and only highlight the ones. I could have my VA do that, highlight stuff that I need to get back to. And that could be a follow. That could be my 3 tips. And I can make that into my, if I make that into my call to action, I actually don't need to be the one saying it all the time. I could actually make a document of all the things that they could possibly do. There it is. So I don't need to continuously be the person on it. I could just let it go out in the world and get shared.
What else builds up your fear towards thinking about presenting yourself, being vulnerable?
You know, one of the things is that I try not to live in my past and I try not to relive all the negative stuff because I'm in such a good headspace that I want to make sure that I keep this in a way that I don't have to revisit some of the bad stuff, right? That I keep moving it in the positive direction. And that's why a lot of times I don't talk about what I have going on. And then I also have this thing where I hate when people pity me, right? Like, so I don't share certain things because I don't need that kind of energy coming to me either. So I always put on a brave face. I'm like, oh, it's fine. Even, you know, even if I don't feel that way, I just have a really small circle of people that I confide in. So I guess my fear is if I make it public, that judgment is going to come.
If you were to fall into your authentic self and drop into your heart space, what rings truth for you?
That people are suffering and they don't need to be. Like I had a lady at my dentist, she literally called me because her mom has metastatic lung cancer. And I literally got her to do some of the stuff that I did for the past 2 months. And they reached out to me right before this class to tell me that she just had a negative PET scan. Like it changes lives. And there's so many people dying that I have to have the courage to move forward. I have to. And I just, it's almost like it's going to require me to level up my game in order for me to do that. And that's the fear.
We have just about just 2 more minutes to go, Lori, for the end of this session.
Mm-hmm.
What have you learned about yourself throughout this process today?
I've learned that I know what I need to talk about. I've learned that I know what to talk about. I don't need to learn anything else, do anything else. That I need to trust myself and that I also have to trust that the people that are in my life that support me now will support me however this goes. And then I can't keep playing small. I have to do this.
And how can you take this information moving forward? How will that make a difference in your life?
I know that I will the word that comes to mind is change maker. Right? Like that I know I could really benefit people. And that's the whole reason why I got into this profession to begin with. Thanks.
How do you feel you've how do you feel you've succeeded with your accomplishments here today?
Oh, I think you knocked it out of the park. Thank you. I think we were really successful in it. I think I needed to talk it through and I got my 3 things. And I have my area that I need to work on of like this whole fear of leveling up.
And
So now I know where I need to work.
and what would get in the way of you moving forward?
Just myself. So I will talk to my Danny about it, who's super tough on me. and I and I will tell him what I'm up to, and he will make sure that the times where I don't show up, that I show up.
And how would you like to end this session?
By thanking you. Thank you.
Well,
I'm-
I would like to take this quick moment just to acknowledge you though, Lori, for your depth that you went today with yourself, and how you're rising. I feel it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I went back and forth on what I wanted to talk about, and then when I realized it was you, I'm like, no, we could do this. Thank you.
All right, thank you both. Well done. And Kim, how do you feel about the session?
Oh boy. Like, if this was just Lori and me coaching her, it would have been a lot longer than half an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, because there were some pivots in there, right?
Yeah.
Before we get to that, how do you everybody can come back on if you'd like, by the way. What do you feel you did well?
I felt I was present for her.
Yeah. How about what do you feel like you needed some help with or focus on?
Yeah, it was so many directions that could have gone, and I think that was part of it, was just, okay, where do I go? Because there was so much, and oh no, that's part of coaching, right? Is just, really feeling like intuitively which direction to go. And I'm not sure if I nailed that. What else? I felt I could have used her language a little more.
Okay. I feel like you used her language, but yeah, there you go. I had to do a little thing on the board. Okay, so I feel like you used her language most of the time. I can't think of anything. I didn't make a note of anything that you introduced anyway. But what I want to focus on, because we only have about 6 minutes, is the coaching agreement. You did so well on the coaching agreement. Well, the whole conversation you did, it was a good conversation. There were some bumps in there, but it was a really good conversation. And it flowed so well because of the coaching agreement. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So when you look ahead, you didn't rush it. You spent the time there. You asked the questions. You got clarity. You definitely asked more than 4 questions, right? We definitely want to ask at least the 4 questions for those 4 competency or 4 markers. But you took your time to explore that. What does she want to explore? What does that look like to be clear? How would you know that you've achieved it? How important is it for you? Where do you want to start? What's important about that? Lots of questions in there as kind of Lori was working it out by each of your questions helped her to work it out and get even clearer for that coaching agreement. So that was very well done. And then I feel like you gave her lots of space. There was a little bit of over talking, but not It was kind of the laughing and kind of, I think that was the camaraderie, not necessarily you over speaking her, but you were definitely curious about her. You were asking great open-ended questions. You stayed on track with the agreement. And then when Lori noted that she wanted to make a switch, and you followed her, which is what we need to do, right? And you even asked for an outcome for that, even though it was only about, you only had about 10 minutes or even less to explore that part of it. You got a little bit more clarity around that for kind of a, I don't think it was a new agreement, but it was definitely an extension of the agreement. And so you made sure to get a direction for it. So you're not just going to be sitting there for 10 minutes, talking through this. So that was good. And then you even checked in about the importance of her outcomes and the importance of the information that she was getting, for herself and the awarenesses that she was creating. So you have a great way of checking back in with the client consistently throughout your calls. And that's one of your strengths, really from the beginning of me observing you coaching. The 4 markers are the 3.1 through 3.4 is what I'm talking about for the agreement. Focus on outcome, measure of success, importance and meaning, and need to address. That description, that's the markers under each of those. And then, you even checked in with alignment. How does this align with, yada, yada. What's important about these 2 or 3 topics for you? What's important for you? Or what's the pain point? I liked when you asked, like, what is the pain point that you like to focus in on? Because she talked about it, knowing the pain points, which could be very large, right? So you helped her to narrow it down. So you're right. There was lots of directions to go in, but you let the questions that you asked allowed Lori to choose those directions, right? And from the most part, not have you worry about that there's plenty of paths to go by because you allowed her to pick the paths. So you asked her which ones or one and she would like to focus in on. You asked about progress. How are we on track with the outcome that she wanted? You asked about what she learned about herself. And you asked, how do you apply that new learning? So important, 8.2 and 8.3 together. What have you learned about yourself? Now, how can you take that information going forward? How do you apply it going forward? So that's 8.3 and 8.4, applying new learning focus. So really all 3 of those markers, as well as, again, making there was a shift in there as far as the focus that she wanted to work, wanted to think about, which was done well as well. And she got her topics out of it. You acknowledged an energy shift. Now, if you had more time, you'd probably want to explore the energy shift more so than just mention it. And then she talked about, you asked what was behind the fear. She talked about that credibility. So again, lots of great questions and a lot of markers were hit. I think that one of the things to think about is that you did have the 3 topics or the outcomes. She said, I have my topics now. Is like, what are the next steps now that she has those topics? So, we want to take what she's got now and put it into something. Like, what is she going to do with those now? Something concrete, right? So so the outcome wasn't like a plan what to do with the 3 topics. The outcome was the 3 topics. But okay, now we have those 3 topics. What do we do with it? Right? So it might not be a plan to use it, although that would have been the assumption, I think, anyway, but we don't want to assume. But you could say, now that you have those 3 topics, what would be the next steps with that? And she could determine whether that's an action step or whatever. Like, she can determine what that is. But and then you did talk about she brought up or you brought up accountability and she brought up the challenges, or you brought up the challenges and she brought up accountability. So those both were covered, however that happened. And then what else? you weren't really, like I said, no interruptions. You're pretty present with her. You asked great open-ended questions. I think it was a great call. And I think the shift threw it off a little bit. So I don't think this was actually a PCC call, but I think it was a very high ACC call. It would be one of those ones that I would have to like listen to again and really look at it, because I feel like there were so many components to it that it is a PCC, but then I feel like there's like little shifts that could have potentially have been worked on a little bit more to maybe not make it a PCC. So I would have to listen to it again, but it was definitely a great call, and it was definitely covered a ton of markers. And I might actually just go back and score it myself just to give myself more clarity so I could give you guys more clarity. But if it's not a PCC call, it's pretty close. So we'll just say that. And your side of it was just really strong. I can't emphasize that enough. Like there was a real strength in it. I think that there was a lot of 8 missing just because of how the conversation went. So that might really play into the scoring of it. Okay. Any questions about that? And how do you feel with that feedback?
That's great. I love it.
All
Coming
right.
from you, like I remember the first time that I coached in front of you, I was stressed to the max. I remember how awful I was at the beginning, and just that was my goal, was to please Cheryl.
Oh my God. Well, it was once you came into your presence, that's really what shifted.
Yeah, well, once I got over my fears of coaching, I don't think that that'll ever really totally go away. I think there'll always be a little something there, but that's something that I've really learned with you was, yeah. So I thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you. All right. Any quick questions? Okay. Go ahead, Lori.
It's not a question, it's just more of how, like, my end, just so you guys know, like, I'm a quick thinker. So part of like the shifting on all of that is because like I felt complete and I was able to move on. So if you guys see that happening, like because I know a lot of times the people that I coach are like that too. It's what I attract. So if you see that, kind of like just know that that's what's kind of going on with people, if you haven't known that. Anyways.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I felt that myself, that was complete for you.
Mhm.
We just have to like make sure that we're doing the inquiry to make sure that that's complete. But yes,
Absolutely.
if you're working regularly with your coach and that, then that's fine. That's how your coach works, and you and the coach works. Okay, so next week is our second mentoring session. Nobody can miss it, and please don't be late. We're going to all observe a session. We're going to all fill out an observation form, and we're going to have a really good discussion around it. And we're going to go over a few other things as well. So I will see you back here next week. So there's no chapter for you, although I will start uploading the other chapters since I have everything back except for the last 2 or 3, which are coming back this weekend. So have a wonderful rest of your week. If you need anything in the meantime, just shoot me an email or a message. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks. Thanks, Kim.